Yo, what's going on, guys? Bill here, Classic Rock and Metal Review. Time for a Super Deluxe Edition and box set update. I'm going to give you all the latest on recently released box sets, Deluxe Editions, Super Deluxe Editions, and upcoming things stretching all the way into September. At least what I think are stuff worth mentioning. All right, not everything. All right, in the realm of what this channel does. Let's put it that way. Guys, also take a close look at a couple of different, actually we'll do 3 reviews. First of all, Gregg Allman's debut solo album from '73, Laid Back. This is from, I think, 2019, Deluxe Edition that came out. 2 CDs, nice remastered album here. Better than nice, man. Let me tell you about this. Chock full of rarities, extras, demos. I mean, this is an awesome pickup. Loving the hell out of that one. I never heard that album before until now. Just got that a few weeks ago. Also, been listening to a lot of Wailers now that it's summertime. And before they were Bob Marley and the Wailers, just known as the Wailers, a trio with some backing musicians. Deluxe edition of this album has previously unreleased Jamaican version of the album. That's pretty awesome. So only available in Jamaica prior to this guy. I think we go back about 10 years with this. Take a close look at that. And finally, the one final review for this thing. I teased you with it, talked about it here and there, kind of, sort of. Well, let's get it all out in the open. Thin Lizzy's Live and Dangerous box set, Super Deluxe Edition, whatever you want to call it. 8 CDs. You know, I listened to like 4 of these CDs within the first few weeks. And kind of put this thing down for months. And, you know, wasn't reaching for it. You know, you get in and out of moods with bands, all right? You know, as much as I love Lizzy, went a few months without listening to them. Just recently got back into it. Listened to the other 4 CDs. I might have listened to a 5th or 6th here and there. But went back and listened to the 2 that I had missed. Kind of found a favorite, I think. Not even 100% sure. They're all so damn good. But we'll talk about all these shows and put this baby to rest finally. Thin Lizzy. It's going to do it for the preview. Let's get right into it. Talking some new releases, recent releases. Oh, and let's also mention, what do we got going on today? This is Lawson's Sip of Sunshine. These guys are from Connecticut, Stratford, Connecticut. A little heavy with my pour, as you can see. Let's finish it up here. And as you can see by the length of this video, I recommend you find something of your own. This is good stuff. I had this years ago. Kind of forgot how good it was. Somebody gifted me a 4-pack of this. Thing of beauty, you know, canned in the end of June. Nice, month old, and I've had it for a few weeks. So it's good. Yeah. Nice. All right. What just came out a few days ago? Neil Young did another one of his original release series. This is Volume 5. Freedom, Ragged Glory, live album Weld, and accompanying, sort of semi-accompanying Arc. All in there. Bonus tracks, 4 of them on Ragged Glory. Total of 6 CDs, 9 albums. Some of these albums get double CDs. I don't know if I'm going to go for this one. The bonus tracks on Ragged Glory is kind of tempting. And you always got to throw those damn crumbs in there to make you scrambling, right? All right, also just came out July 28th, same day as Neil. Stevie Nicks complete studio albums and rarities. 10 CDs, 2 CDs of rare stuff. 4 of the albums and the 2 CDs of rare stuff are remastered. Also, July 28th, Billy Idol, his self-titled 1982 debut, getting a 2 CD deluxe edition. Remastered, whether it's on CD or vinyl. Original album. 1982 Hollywood concert. And a 12-minute White Wedding remix. Amazon has a vinyl edition with an exclusive lithograph of alternate album artwork. If you're that into Billy Idol. You know, I got his first 2 albums years ago. I really just wasn't super impressed beyond the hits. You know, I don't think I'm going to buy this, but I probably should revisit it. Who knows? Sometimes things change over time. August 4th, coming soon, Rick Wakeman at Lincoln Cathedral. 2 CD, 1 DVD, deluxe edition of his September 26th, 2001 unrehearsed, one-off performance gig at, as you can imagine, Lincoln Cathedral. No audience present, borrowing a little script there from Floyd Pompey. Interesting though, you know, it was kind of just a last minute sort of thing that he threw together, but somehow it got filmed, so that's kind of cool. You get a DVD of it too, if you're a Rick Wakeman guy. August 11th, David Bowie, Ziggy Stardust Motion Picture Soundtrack, 50th Anniversary Edition, remastered with 2 previously unreleased songs, 2 CDs. Blu-ray of the film is digitally restored, so it's a 2 CD, 1 Blu-ray. You can also buy it on 2 albums only or 2 CDs only if you don't care about the video. And guys, I just also happened to notice a week or so ago that the film has been playing in various theaters around the country. Check into it. You know, it's not even near me anywhere close. It could have been weeks ago. I usually get notices about that from my local theater when they do these special showings, but I didn't get one, so I don't think it was there. Anyway, if you're interested in trying to see that in the theater, that would be cool. You know, I wonder why that wasn't just one big day like most of those things are. A little suspicious how it's just random places and times and dates, you know. All right, August 11th also, Elvis, Aloha from Hawaii via satellite, 3 CDs and a Blu-ray. I believe this is the first time this is on Blu-ray. The concert is remixed on CD1. There's a rehearsal show on CD2, and CD3 has some sort of after-show performances that was actually only 5 songs, but multiple versions, multiple takes of each of those tunes. Not sure, you know, if they were probably just something that was filmed that they thought they could use if they had to later on and edit it in. Not even 100% sure. I am sure of this. I ordered this thing. I don't usually pre-order things. I pre-ordered this one. It was originally going for like $55. It dropped to like $42. I went for it for $42. You know, let's talk about this for 1 minute. Kind of balked at the Elvis on Tour box set that came out earlier this year. $75, 60, still hovering at $65. 6 shows were all from about the same time period, within weeks of each other, I believe. So the set lists don't really vary. Would be nice to have that on Blu-ray, I admit. But I kind of balked at that. But you know, $40, I have to shell out $40 for 2 reasons. Number one, I haven't seen this thing in about 30 years. Cousin had it on VHS. That's the last time I saw it. And number 2, the set list here is probably better than his 72 Elvis on Tour set list, which I was surprised about. But it is super solid, so this one's coming, and I'll probably do a review of this next month, possibly. It's coming middle of August, so we'll see. But, you know, they also kind of were using like the latest video filming techniques, which I think might have been the NFL on Monday Night Football that started this, sort of cameras on rails and rolling down the side. So I just kind of remember that. It looks dated, a little dated now, but in a cool way, kind of. Hard to describe. You just have to see it. You would know what I mean. So anyway, that looks cool. August 18th also, Robin Trower, twice removed from yesterday, his 1973 album. 50th Anniversary Deluxe Edition, 2 CDs, the second disc, alternates, B-sides, and live at the BBC. Coolness there for Robin Trower fans. A couple of Aerosmith things also August 18th. Greatest Hits Deluxe Edition, a 3 CD version, career spanning, and 44 songs altogether, but no new material. That's the Greatest Hits Deluxe Edition. There's also some Greatest Hits live collection coming out a week later, August 25th. Aerosmith. Sketchy on the details of this. I had to do a lot of digging just to find out what I'm about to tell you. And I'm not even 100% clear on it, but it appears to be a Japan-only product. You'd have to get it as an import. Live between 1977 and 2016. I believe that these shows were previously released as 3 separate releases as bonus discs of Greatest Hits discs out in Japan. Like I said, 77 to 16, the volume 1 and 2. And then live 2011, one single concert was a separate bonus disc in Japan. So basically they're just combining the bonus discs from previous Greatest Hits Japan-only versions into a Greatest Hits live collection. Looks like Amazon had it for, last I checked, this was a few days ago, maybe almost a week ago. $86 is a pre-order. So like I said, there's no details other than you can pre-order it on Amazon for $86. So I just gave you as many details as I could find on my own. August 25th, Alice Cooper, Road. It's his new album, Deluxe Edition, 1 CD, 1 Blu-ray of a 2022 concert. 2 albums, a CD and a Blu-ray with a trucker hat, keychain, and a scented tree like you would hang in your car. It's kind of cool. For $100, that's out there. Napalm Records in the UK is selling that. Guys, if you're an Alice Cooper nut, I have nothing from him. I have to get on board with him, other than a DVD. Search Alice Cooper Road box set, and this thing should come up. Like I said, Napalm Records, UK, if you want that. Super deluxe version of it. Album, CD, Blu-ray. All right, into September, guys. September 1st, specifically, Jethro Tull, 1982 album, The Broadsword and the Beast. 5 CDs, 3 DVDs. Monster Edition, they're calling it. Steven Wilson remixes, demos, alternate takes, all your usual awesome stuff. 1982 concert on 2 of the CDs. 164-page book. I mean, wow. 3 DVDs are audio only, though. Just be aware of that. You're not getting any video like we have in some of the past Tull Deluxe editions. There's a 4 LP vinyl edition out there separately also, if y'all are into that. Also September 15th, Queensryche, Frequency Unknown, their deluxe edition of a 2013 album. Remix of the album with bonus tracks. It's limited edition. I don't know how many exactly. It comes in 2 CD digipack. So the bonus tracks are 2013 remixes of 3 older songs and 3 other remixes of Silent Lucidity. There's your Queensryche, Frequency Unknown, September 15th. Hawkwind, September 29th, Space Ritual, 1973 double live album, gets a 50th anniversary, massive super deluxe edition. 10 CDs and 1 Blu-ray that's in 5.1 high resolution surround sound. 3 complete shows from the 72 tour make up this box set, among other material, obviously. Poster, program, 68-page book. This one's not cheap, but man, if you're a fan of this band and album, I guess you gotta have this. Pretty awesome. Guys, another band, I don't know anything from these guys. The only thing I know about Hawkwind is Lemmy used to be in them. So I'll have to get into these guys a little bit someday. Also, September 29th, yet another release from Rick Wakeman presents the Prog Years, 1973 to 77. 26 CDs, 6 DVDs. I mean, how big are these box sets getting? It's crazy. 6 programs, 3 posters, hardback scrapbook that Rick's father was keeping in those younger days. That's kind of cool. A reproduction of that. Things he was gathering back in the 70s, clippings and so forth, reviews, all in there. Looks pretty awesome. You know, I have to just talk about this for a second. And I'm not a huge progressive rock fan or anything, but I just have to mention, this might seem like overkill, you know, 26 CDs and all that. In my opinion, if these recordings are laying around, why not release them and get them out there? Get some diehard fans that are happy as hell. The artist gets paid, fans get what they want, right? I mean, if not now, when? These guys aren't getting any younger, and a lot of their fans aren't either. You know, I'm sure this music's going to be around forever, you know, it's classic rock like this. But how many kids born in the last 10 or 20 years are going to want this, you know? Now's the time to release this stuff. I just wish more bands. I mean, can you imagine if Sabbath put out something like this, or Floyd? That would be amazing. Finally, as far as the new releases go, Keith Emerson, not to be outdone by Rick Wakeman, Variations box set, a career-spanning 20 CD set, 48-page book comes with that bad boy. Guys, that's your update on new releases. Let's get into some deluxe edition reviews, starting with the Wailers International debut, Island Records originally 1973, Catch a Fire deluxe edition. We'll be talking about the CD, obviously 2 CD deluxe edition. Original vinyl, really sought after, flip top Zippo lighter style, pretty damn cool. I think I did see one once. It was really rough. Man, I should have probably picked it up. Anyway, let's get into this one. Wailers Catch a Fire. This is the cover you're probably used to seeing these days, Catch a Fire. And I think they switched to this cover back in the 70s. This album was 73. By 74, Bunny and Peter Tosh had left the band. It was just Bob. So hence the switch up with the album cover. Here's the back of it. And I believe the vinyl up on the shelf there is exactly the same as far as front and back cover. I picked this Catch a Fire Deluxe Edition up. Also their second album, Burnin' Deluxe Edition and Legend Deluxe Edition, all at the same time about 5 years ago off eBay. Someone was selling all three, I think for $40. So to me, Legend was a throw-in. I was really after Catch a Fire and Burnin' Deluxe Editions. And honestly, I really kind of dismissed this at the time, but we're going to get into it, and I'll tell you why I'm sort of back into it in a way. For one thing, I happen to be reading biography. Pretty well done so far. I'm not all the way through it, maybe 65% through it. So much things to say. The oral history, Bob Marley, plowing ahead with it so far. It's pretty cool. It's mostly just quotes by other people that were there during all the things going on in the book. Then the author pretty much just lays the groundwork for the topic every so often. Lets eyewitness people do the talking and explaining for most of the book. So it has me taking a closer look at my Marley collection and some things that I just sort of maybe heard once or twice and let go. This being one of them. One of only two albums, as I mentioned, with the original three Wailers. The other being Burnin'. This one's 73, I think Burnin' 74. But a little history on these guys. They formed in 1963. Bunny Wailer, Bob Marley, Peter McIntosh, shortens his name up to Tosh. Various singles during the 60s. 4 albums released in Jamaica, elsewhere in the world. Lots of unscrupulous people around the band, profiting off the band. The band's just scraping by for years, for almost a decade, really. That's how it is. Island Records owner Chris Blackwell had a hand in Jamaican music scene. Was aware of few different bands, but had his eyes set on Bob Marley in particular, and of course the Wailers as a band. Kind of interested in both, really. Signs the band in the early 70s. Now, from the get-go, there was always some push-pull between Chris Blackwell and the Wailers. He trying to take them global, and the band, of course, feeling obligated to stick to their Jamaican roots. Now, Bob, probably of the three of them, the most okay with sort of, I don't know if you want to call it compromising, but he wants to take his message, international. So he's kind of trusting Chris Blackwell. Really getting some cool insight to Marley in this book. He was a pretty quiet guy, for someone who's, lead singer of pretty damn popular, well-known band, right? Pretty reserved, pretty quiet. Didn't trust most people, but when he trusted you until you burned him. And Chris Blackwell was someone that he trusted. So, you can call it push-pull, but really basically Bob was sort of okay with going along with a lot of what Chris Blackwell had to suggest for them to go global. Part of that was on Chris Blackwell's end, trying to present the band having all the stylings and presentation of any other rock band, which obviously they weren't. And if all you know are the records, the basic albums that came out on Island and Tough Gong, forget about that. Back in the late 60s and even the early 70s, even right before this first album was made in 73, they were very loosey-goosey, really trying and re-recording a lot of songs over and over to try to find a style, and something that would hit outside of the Caribbean. So they were open to a lot of Blackwell's suggestions, especially Bob. And part of that was basically having the look of a rock band, So they had a lot of musicians in and out of the scene, and on purpose, not something that they didn't want to happen. They just jammed with whoever was around. If they were getting turned on by a certain keyboard player, they would play with him for a couple months or a year or whatever. And maybe he would come back around into the band scene at some point later. That stuff was going on constantly throughout the late 60s, early 70s. They just jammed with whoever felt right to jam with. And that's where Blackwell just said, you guys need like somewhat of a solid lineup, especially if you want to eventually tour. Now, by 1974, as I already said, Bunny and Peter had left the band. So there is your Bob Marley and the Wailers. But as you can see, this was sort of part of Chris Blackwell's idea. Just get yourselves a couple of backing guys. You have Aston Family Man Barrett on bass, Carlton Barrett on drums, and they're the 5 dudes. 3 Wailers and their rhythm section, basically. They had bands with 7, 8 guys or more at times. It just happened to be that Chris wanted to present them sort of unified rock band style. All right, so what do we got here with our deluxe edition? Got a 2001 is stamped on the back. Now, that's the same year stamped on this guy. So I'm not sure if that's just when Tough Gong, also says Tough Gong and Universal Island on here. So nevertheless, that's what the year is on this thing. I'm not really sure. I should have probably looked up when this came out. But what are we talking about here? Disc 1, the unreleased original Jamaican versions. I believe this was released in Jamaica at the time. I'm not even clear on that, since they call it the unreleased original versions. But this is kind of what I dismissed at the time when I first bought this. Like I said, no new songs, all right? What's on here are 9 songs on the regular Catch a Fire version. 9 songs, 2 bonus tracks. So where that came from is this original version, Jamaican version. I'm just going to call it the Jamaican version, okay? 11 songs were on that album. So not the 9 plus 2. All 11 were on here. So another difference with this one, this is produced, Disc 1, Jamaican version, produced by the band only, band themselves, as opposed to the band and Chris Blackwell for the the international Catch a Fire. Catching all this? All right. 11 songs, like we said. Also a different running order when you look at the 2 different side-by-side versions of the album. The main thing about it, more vocals here. Sort of a triple threat here in terms of what I mean there. Vocals in places where there are none on the versions on the international version. The background vocals are louder and they're equal to the lead vocal at times. So it's kind of like a trio singing as opposed to Bob Marley singing with 2 guys in the background. And also, it's not in a lot of places, but where it is, it's really cool. Bunny Wailer's falsetto is awesome. Kind of like the secret weapon of the band. Really a thing of beauty, all right? It basically, Bob Marley needed to get 2 or 3 women into the band to equal Bunny's falsetto when he was really allowed to wail, for lack of a better term. Greater acoustic, a little bit greater of an acoustic presence and percussion presence on our Jamaican version of the album. So less electric, more back to nature, I guess if you want to call it that. Still has drums, still has bass. Let's look a little bit at the running order. Concrete Jungle, this is one of my favorites of all Bob Marley songs. More vocals by Bunny and Peter Tosh. They're louder in the mix. They're singing with Bob, not just backing vocals behind Bob. There's some spoken word things in the background too being mumbled by one of them. A little hard to make out. A less electric version, still great. Love Concrete Jungle, always have. Next up, Stir It Up. Now this version is a minute and a half shorter than the version we're all familiar with Legend and on the international version. And you know what? It's not better. This song deserves to be 5+ minutes, not 3.5. Heavier electric piano on this one makes it a little more interesting, but you really feel a little unfulfilled having it end so soon. High Tide or Low Tide is a great song. I don't know if I detect much different with that. Not really. Stop That Train, this is a great one. The organ might be a little higher in this one. Love that tune. Peter Tosh on lead vocals, of course. 400 Years, another Peter Tosh sung song and another great one. Although, don't really notice much different with this one either. Of course, like I said, guys, our running order is completely different. Baby, We're on It. Baby, We've Got a Date, Rocket Baby. That is a good one. Again, higher in the mix backing vocals, equal to Bob's lead vocals. Make it a more interesting listen to me. Midnight Ravers, again, the backgrounds and Bob sound like a duo as opposed to Bob singing with people in the background. Equal levels on the mix is cool. All Day and All Night, there's a line in that song, never gonna give my love to nobody but you, babe. There's a part where Bob sings that line, then Bunny Wailer sings that line by himself, then Peter Tosh sings the line by himself, then Bob comes in and sings it again. That is so awesome. I believe it was edited in some way on the original. It's not all sung in a row the way I just explained how it is. So it's really cool. I really like that part of All Day and All Night. It's a great song. So Slave Driver, Kinky Reggae, No More Trouble. No More Trouble is better live. Now that song, it's on both versions, but way better live when it's done with War. Bottom line, guys, after, I probably heard the original Catch a Fire, this guy, or the international version 20 times, maybe even more. I don't even know. I've had that thing for about 15 years or more. Basically, this version, this unreleased Jamaican version that's on here, just refreshingly different to me. Also doesn't hurt that I'm reading this book and learning about how they sort of came up with a style by 73 for the first album that they didn't necessarily have beforehand. This Jamaican version probably more in line with what they were doing before Chris Blackwell sort of got a hand in there. Obviously, as it's produced by the band and not him. Really a thing of beauty vocally, Also a little bit of difference with the instruments, but not a ton. I don't even know if there's any electric on there, just minimal electric guitar. Not that there was a ton on the other version, but if you know your Jamaican history, especially, like I said, the era musically, how the band was getting into the Rastafarian influence with that drum circle sort of ceremony they do, you'd understand why Jamaicans probably prefer this version for sure, or anyone from the Caribbean. And, one of the things that's pretty interesting in this book is a guy who was somewhat of a fan of Marley, but he went to Jamaica to film him at a concert in 76. And he had never been to a drum circle ceremony kind of thing. And he said it was crazy. Like, really, you could see he described it as a religious ceremony. Just people drumming and, of course, smoking. But he said, 100 people were drumming. And it was really one of the coolest experiences of his life, just being there. Someone who had never even seen it before. So, this may not sound all that different from the regular version, but, little ways it kind of is. Bit less rock, bit less Chris Blackwell. I do prefer, I'll tell you this much, the running order of this initial release. It just seems to flow better to me, and having those other two songs, the two songs they used as bonus tracks, High Tide or Low Tide, All Day and All Night, those two are tacked on as bonus tracks. They're great songs. They could have just been anywhere in the album. Something about the running order on this one that I just kind of prefer. This version, with all 11 songs on one album, seems to run out of gas, kind of, sort of. I don't know, you got Kinky Reggae ending the album, which is a good one, but No More Trouble as the last song doesn't really work for me, because it really is not even nearly as good a version of the song on record as it would be live. I also prefer the longer version of Stir It Up, not the shorter one on the Jamaican version. I'm not really big on choosing, in my opinion. I'm just happy we have two different versions to listen to. Just glad we have both. So let's take a look at this thing real quick, for God's sakes. We've got these cool slip covers. I really kind of took these for granted at the time, right? you know, the info right on them and all that. Kind of did away with those for the most part, as far as I know. And it's a shame because some people got rid of these things completely when they first bought them, unfortunately. So if you got those, hang on to those. They're kind of collectible. Like I was telling you before, this vinyl album was a flip top Zippo lighter. It was really kind of cool. So nice to see them. You know, this is what they changed to after a few years after it came out. So nice to see that they're sort of throwing the old cover back on the deluxe edition. Here's the back cover of it, which is the same back cover as the album. And cool little side on there. Jamaican colors. Catch a Fire, Deluxe. Tough Gong. Opens up. There's your lighter presentation. Little story of the band going on in there. Picture of Bob. Got the Jamaican colors on the discs. That's kind of cool. Another picture of Bob over on the far right. Your right, I believe. And pretty cool book that comes with it. You get the original cover on that. And nice, let's see, I don't know, maybe like 15-page book kind of thing. All the lyrics. Little card to order your swag and your goodies and shirts. Overall, nice deluxe edition. You know, like I said, you're like me. You've been listening to this guy for 15 years or more. Nice change of pace. If you've only heard this 3 or 4 times, you might not even notice a big difference. But someone like me definitely did. All right, next let's get into some Thin Lizzy. Woo! That's some good stuff. All right, Thin Lizzy, Live and Dangerous Super Deluxe Edition. That's right, let's just wrap it all up. I brought it up 2 or 3 other times briefly. Finally got around to listening to the whole thing at least twice at this point. You know what? The one I haven't listened to, I haven't listened to Live and Dangerous. I'm just, you guys know, I'm fans of the real shows, the real Live and Dangerous concerts themselves, you know. So obviously, let's just do a quick little, I'm not an unboxer, but there you go. Now what's really, I love this, man. Can you guys make that out? They got Thin Lizzy logo in that, inside that box. That's awesome, man. I mean, there was no need to do that at all. That's a really nice touch. In my opinion, one of the coolest things I've ever seen on a box set. All your info right on the back. That's nice too, and it's nice and big and not hard to read. And has all the dates. It tells you which city the songs from the regular Live and Dangerous album came from. So that's cool. I'm sure you've all seen that before. I'm going to try to zip through this, all right? The hardbound book, which is a nice little sort of summary of the album. Basic history in the beginning of it. I just read this like last week, you know, so it taken me a while to get into this thing. Basic story of the band, and then it just focuses on the live album, why it was, you know, made and why it got to be. It was just supposed to be culled from 3 shows at Hammersmith, ended up stretching out all the way to 78 by the time they got around to getting it released. Your typical awesome book that comes with a box set. Let's just leave it at that. Your discs come in another sort of cardboard. You get the full back again on there, which is really handy. I like that. Discs in the sleeves of the pages of this, which unfolds to 4 different pages. I guess it's technically 8 if you count the back. There they are. You know you want them. Really sucks they didn't make enough of these. That was kind of crazy. I don't pre-order much. Luckily I did with this one. So let's get into this guy. Released this past January 2023. Sold out right away, as you all know. You know, billed as the collection to lay to rest the rumors that the original album wasn't really live. The one person that refused to do anything over again in the studio was drummer Brian Downey. So there's no way it could be completely redone. Although that's only one instrument out of the 4. So I haven't heard disc 1, Live and Dangerous. It looks like there's one song on there that's kind of special, Southbound, which they took from one of the Philadelphia Tower shows sound checks, not even a concert. Other than that, that's basically the only thing special on the regular live album. So let's talk about the stuff that I care about, the concerts. 7 discs, 7 live shows. As you probably know, I'm not a big fan of regular live albums. And, you know, when you read something like, well, 40 to 75% of this album isn't really live, right in the book that comes with it, that kind of tells you why, man. You know, I don't even know why I got such a chip on my shoulder about that kind of stuff. Maybe from my first concert, Speak of the Devil being my first album, which I know is a fake album, you know, like Ozzy at least anyway, redid all the vocals. But, I don't know. Between that crowd that sounded so realistic, because it is, the band on that is all real. None of those guys went back and touched. So musically and crowd-wise, sort of a standard bearer, really, when you think about it, with live albums being real. Speak of the Devil. The only fake one on there is the guy who did it, Ozzy. And then maybe go into that first concert too, you know. There were some mistakes and shit happened that you would never hear on a live album. You saw it happen, you heard it happen. So, you know, I just really liked the real rawness of seeing a concert live. That was January of '84. So, you know, it was only 2 years into collecting records. So anyway, I don't know. I just prefer live real albums, as you know. Big bootleg guy for that reason. So I've heard all 7 of these a few times already. Honestly, really, I think all 7 are great. All the shows and performances are really solid. The sound on them is all the same, honestly. I don't really hear any one that sounds any different than the other. Definitely some production tricks that you can do nowadays to do that kind of thing. You really have to strain, I think, to find particulars in these shows that make one better than the other. Yeah, there can be some solos that are a little better here and there. The one thing I will just say right up front is, as a huge bootleg collector, I actually have one of these shows on bootleg. What is the need to touch anything up? Pretty much every bootleg I have, for the most part. I mean, not all of them, but most of them. They sound great, you know, as far as the performances go. What is this need for Phil to re-record most of the bass parts? I mean, come on, every live Thin Lizzy album I got sounds good, man. I don't hear anything wrong with the damn bass playing or the bass guitar sound itself. He re-recorded some of the vocals. They recorded a few of the solos got re-recorded. I just don't know why. I really don't get it. I mean, what is the need to make these things sound like studio albums with crowd noise behind them? What is the point, you know? As you can see, and I still haven't listened to the live album on here. All right, so let's get into these 7 live shows. The sound, first of all, the sound quality on them. Sound on them is pretty good. I mean, overall, whatever technique it is that they're using makes them all sort of sound the same, which is kind of cool, even though we're spread out over a 2-year period. Now, it has a sort of surround sound aspect, quality to it. You kind of feel like you're in the middle of the floor. You can hear it wrapping around you. It's kind of cool. However, it does lose bottom end. You know, I noticed that immediately, especially when I compare my Hammersmith show to my bootleg of the Hammersmith show. I think it is the 15th November. This thing sounds fatter and beefier and meatier, and I like the sound on this better. Despite the fact that it doesn't have like that surround sound thing going for it the way that box set does. But there's that to be said. It sounds cool, it sounds good, but it definitely lost some bottom end. You kind of hear the bass, but you don't feel the bass. Let's put it that way. The bass guitar seems to be worse than the bass drum, though. All right, bass drums sound decent, not great, but better than the bass guitar. Live Evil Super Deluxe Edition did a great job of using some of that sort of surround sound thing going on. Not as much, but they definitely kept the bass sound in there, in my opinion. It sounds better than this. All right, so discs 2 to 4, the Hammersmith Odeon, London, 3 shows, 14th, 15th, 16th November of '76. Johnny the Fox tour, I think, right? Originally, these were to be the only 3 sources for Live and Dangerous. And, you know, what a great album to be touring Johnny the Fox right after Jailbreak. You know, and before that, Nightlife and Fightin', right? So all 3 of these shows sound awesome to me. I like that, you know, at first when I saw that, I only got this thing like, what, not even a year ago. When I first got this, and then a month or two later, I saw the announcement for the box set, I was kind of like, damn, I just sort of got this for nothing. Not nothing, but because it's also got Chicago 76 on there, which I didn't have before. But this, I'm glad I still have this now because I think it sounds better. But all three of those shows are killer, no doubt. Discs 5 to 7, we got Philadelphia Tower Theater, October 20th, October 21st. Kind of always assumed that this guy was from the 20th. There's a ticket stub on the inside cover from the 20th of October. However, you know, it doesn't specifically say a date on here. There's only that ticket stub on the cover. So this could have been a combination of those two nights as it was. Only 10 songs. This one sounds decent. Doesn't sound great, but it sounds pretty good. Definitely does not have that surround sound feel that the box set does. Kind of really like those two Philly shows a lot. I feel like they're better than the Hammersmith shows, kind of. Not really by leaps and bounds, maybe just by a hair, you know. And the other show from that week, basically, October 28th, Toronto, Seneca College Fieldhouse. That, guys, was my favorite show on here after I heard everything once. There was something about it. It was one of the last that I put on that when I put it on, just felt a little extra energy on it compared to the other shows. Not that the other shows weren't great. This one just seemed to have a little pop to it in the playing. Phil definitely seemed to have a dash more overall energy, or slightly noticeable amount more of energy, I thought, than the other gigs. He was definitely in a good place, good mood that night, you know. Just great vibes from him. So, you know, I really thought Toronto was going to be my favorite show. So I listened to it once. A month later, I went to listen to it again. Listened to it again, and I thought, you know, this is really good. Probably my favorite. Here I was listening to disc 5 from the Tower Theater in Philly. So I had the wrong disc by accident. And so now it's kind of, basically I think those three shows are my favorites. The two Tower Theater Philly shows, Toronto. Maybe Toronto gets a little bit of an edge. I don't know. It's hard to say. All these shows are great, man. It's really a tough call. You know, Soldier of Fortune's on there, Opium Trail, Bad Reputation, Don't Believe a Word. They're the songs that are unique to that era of the band. And then finally you get the Rainbow Theater, 1978, you know, an actual version of Southbound, not a sound check version that was on the original Live and Dangerous album. You also get Are You Ready, which was also on the Toronto show and the Rainbow. I think exclusive to just those two. Suicide's awesome, that's on there. Sha La La, there's some great ones. So really it's a set list thing if you have to try to pick a winner, because the performances are all awesome, man. I mean, you know, if this was Christmas Story, A+++++, you know, I mean, what else can you say? It's great. 7 fantastic shows. The spectral sound thing is good, but it does thin out the sound. That's one complaint I've been saying all along. Today's the day I shut my mouth up about all of it, honestly. There are some edits in there, at least as far as the between song chatter, banter, whatever you want to call it. Things just, you know, one song ends and another one starts up. Minimal talking in between. Definitely doesn't feel like the full show as far as that stuff. So I really wish they would have left some of that in. But I know you are trying to fit in shows that were pushing 80 minutes onto an 80-minute disc. So that's probably part of that. All right, bottom line, whenever this damn thing comes back in print, absolutely get it. I got lucky, guys. I got it for $84. Amazon France, I think, was the cheapest way to buy it when it was first announced. And then it shipped from Connecticut, you know, so who the hell knows what's going on. I did have to wait a week till after it came out, but at least I got it and got it pretty cheap. Sometimes, man, it just pays to go after those pre-orders, you know. You just never know when you gotta, right? That's what sucks. All right, guys, next, let's wrap things up with some Gregg Allman. Laid Back Deluxe Edition. Let me find it in my pile of stuff here. Here we are. Just picked this up for the first time maybe a month ago. I got it 3-4 weeks ago. Mercury, the label on this. Original album from 73, this deluxe edition from 2019. You get 2 CDs with it. CD 1, the 8-song original album, remastered. You also get 8 early mixes of those same songs. There's your back. Disc 2. Disc 2, 18 songs from the era. Basically, demos, rough mixes, 1 live song. Stuff that would mostly be on the album, but not necessarily. You get some other stuff thrown in there for good measure. Good one. So basically what led Gregg to doing his first solo album, what he called his Pride and Joy, this album Laid Back. He was writing basically non-stop. He had been writing songs for, at this point, 5 or 6 years now, maybe more. He wrote a couple on the very first Hourglass album back in '67, so that's probably right around when he started writing. He only used a small portion of what he wrote with the Allman Brothers Band. He also wrote a lot of songs that he thought were crap and just threw them in the garbage. But, you know, he still kept a lot of stuff around that he wrote that wouldn't fit the Allmans. By 1973, he had so many unused songs, and a lot of quality ones too, weren't going to fit the Allmans style. So musically, and of course knowing the history with him losing his brother Dwayne, it's late 71. Then they lose bassist Barry Oakley a year later, late 72. Musically and therapeutically, Gregg needed to record this album. And you could probably hear how much he needed it just by listening to it. Really sort of soulful, some almost gospel-y kind of sounding things with background singers going on. Recorded this within, I think, 2 or 3 weeks, March of 73. Now, Brothers and Sisters was recorded already too. So really they had 4 albums under their belt. That was recorded in late 72, not released until summer of 73. So in between recording Brothers and Sisters and Brothers and Sisters getting released, Gregg records Laid Back. Original producer of the album was Johnny Sandlin, who was his drummer in Hourglass. And the 2019 remaster, overseen by 2 guys, Bill Levinson and John Linsky. And man, did they do a friggin' great job with this. I'll tell you, this is one of the best CDs I've ever heard. Stunning, beautiful vinyl-like sound on this thing. It's just perfect. I mean, it's rich. Everything sounds like it's supposed to. There is no detectable noise in between songs. I mean, it's so quiet. You also have to put your volume up the way you would an album. Why more people can't do this with a CD is beyond me, because it does get done every now and then. It's just really once in a while. From things I've read, this sounds better than the original CD by leaps and bounds. Awesome sound on this original album. My favorites on this one, Midnight Rider, which was of course a hit for Gregg. I've always kind of preferred this one, you know. The original was great when I was in my teens, but Gregg's is a really cool version, haunting kind of version. Love both versions, but I probably prefer this one at this point. Queen of Hearts is a great one, soulful rock. These little jazz sort of quatrains in there. I think it's after the second chorus, and then it'll lead you out of the song kind of thing. You got J-Mo on congas in here. There's a saxophone that rides the song out at the end. Great one. Allman Brothers song, Please Call Home. Gregg sort of makes it a sort of bigger thing. Orchestration, gospel-like background chorus going on. Pretty good, man. I don't know. It would be hard to pick between this and the Allman's version. Both really cool. I don't like to pick, right? Really can't pick with this one. All right, just appreciate that they both exist because they're different. These days, I just got done watching, I actually rented this from the library, After the Crash DVD. You guessed it, talks all about the band's years following the 2 crashes, really. And really goes on all the way through the band, all the way up to the 90s, but focuses on the mid-70s era. And basically this is where I learned that Gregg was a roommate with Jackson Browne. I mean, how did I never hear that? If I did, it was 30 years ago and forgot maybe. I don't know. It seemed like news to me. So he does a version of These Days by Browne on here. That sounds really good. Although I will say I saw him do an acoustic solo version on a show called The Inside Track. I think it was on A&E, some cable show in the late 80s or so, maybe 1990. Great. I like his acoustic solo version of this better. You won't hear me say that often. That's awesome. Another great song on here, I think, All My Friends. A couple other tunes on here are decent too. The early mixes, the other 8 songs on disc 1, I don't really hear a ton different. They're just little more stripped down versions. Nothing really sort of outweighs the regular album in my opinion. Now disc 2, as you can see, a ton of killer stuff on this guy. And there's some favorites in there. Laid back demos, outtakes, and alternates. Jam-packed, 18 songs on this guy. Some of them do repeat from, if you got this double disc of Gregg Allman, One More Try, an anthology. This is not really an anthology. This is an anthology of rarities. There's only a handful of regular songs on here, regular versions. A lot of previously unreleased demos, much the same way. And some of them are from that double CD, although there's so many damn songs. I'd have to do side-by-sides to tell you exactly which one. So let's just talk about some highlights. Right away, Never Knew How Much demo. This is a song that appeared on a later Allman's album, Reach for the Sky or Brothers of the Road. I'm not sure which one, but now I like that song a lot, done by the Allman Brothers. I like it better here. This demo version, I think, really sounds good. Got the same stellar production as CD 1 on all these outtakes and things on disc 2. Great bottom end, not too loud. How CDs should sound, like I already said. Another Please Call Home. This one's a demo. This is track 3. This one sounds really cool. It's stripped down compared to the version that's on the regular album Laid Back. Track 10, Shadow Dream Song. Solo guitar and vocal demo. Really dig this song. And I think it was on One More Try, an anthology also. Track 11, Wasted Words. This is an Allman Brothers song, previously unreleased, kind of like a boogie rock style on here, funkier, different from other demo versions that I've heard. And I have heard at least 1 or 2 others of this song on Allman Deluxe editions. This one's really cool. Track 16, also a favorite of mine, Midnight Rider Rehearsal. So kind of like the version on Laid Back, but there's more like this funky blues kind of piano going on, and yet somehow it works. You know, you got the original Allman Brothers version, that's great. Gregg's version from Laid Back, which is great. And now we have Gregg's version, but without any of the orchestration. But it's not really just a stripped down version. It's like kind of a unique, different version of the song, yet again, you know. Kind of prefer the one on Laid Back, but this is a cool bonus in my eyes. Funkier, stripped of the orchestration, good one. And finally, just to mention this one, it's not a favorite of mine, Melissa live at the Capitol Theater. I believe that was on the Gregg Allman tour in 1974. There's the album of that back there, obviously. The guitar is curiously like out of tune on here, so you can see why I didn't make the album, but that's still what makes it, I guess, a collectible. It wasn't on the original album, Gregg Allman tour. However, that a guitar is out of tune for a good amount of the song. I mean, it's very noticeable for a good amount of the song. Towards the end, it seems to get a little less annoying, but still cool to have as a nugget, knowing that it was something that was not on the album, and now it's the first time seeing the light of day. Gregg Allman's Laid Back Deluxe Edition, guys. This is just a feast for your ears. Soulful blues rock. Great stuff on here, man. 16 or 17 bucks on Amazon. Got my cracked case with it, you know. Of course, 2 cracks, actually. All right, guys, that's going to do it for now. I did have something to show you related to the next deluxe edition, or maybe we'll save it for our all Black Sabbath show. This just arrived the other day. Ordered it from England, 22 and change. All right, was out of print for years. It's back in print. I didn't have to pay $50 or $100 like people were getting for it last week. They're still trying to get it, but you're a little wiser because you watched this awesome show. And while you're doing that, you also hoist. Guys, I'll catch your asses again soon. Peace. Everyone enjoy the summer before it's gone. Catch you later.